So welcome everyone to the 12th virtual Los Angeles user group. Thomas was just asking how long we've been around. I was trying to dig up on Meetup, but I mean it's been years. I remember 5-6 years ago we were in a small room in LA. Everyone's late because there's traffic. You know, that was back when we were meeting up in person. People would show up like halfway through the presentation, but it's been a long time, so it's kind of got me thinking back. But thanks for joining us. I'm excited. This is the last user group of this year. I am actually personally excited about the sessions that we are about to see here today. So in the first session, we'll be talking about OrderCloud and MACH architecture. So this is something that's sort of near and dear to me. I've been in the commerce space, gosh, for several years, and I'm extremely curious to see what you guys have to show us. And as always, we all know microservices are here to stay. So I'm curious to see what you guys have on the MACH front as well. And then in the second session, we actually have Thomas Desmond joining us from Sitecore. So,
oh, sweet.
So he has a presentation on what makes websites fast, and performance is one of my pet peeves on a website. I cannot stand slow things, and performance is a hot topic with Sitecore in general. So I'm also very interested to see what Thomas has prepared for us. In fact, what I heard, this presentation is fresh, brand new. In fact, Thomas, I think you just presented it internally at Sitecore just earlier today. Was that right?
Yeah, so I got one practice run in this morning, and so this is the second time, and looking forward to it.
Awesome, guys. So this literally just got presented at Sitecore internally. So we're the first people to see this outside of Sitecore.
Very cool.
Yeah, super excited. So why don't we get started? So I'll hand it over to you, Sandy and Hidal.
Okay. All right. Let's get this started. Can you see my very big PowerPoint, blue and green?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, Vasily, thank you very much for letting us have this opportunity to speak with this group. This is a awesome opportunity. Hedel and I have been doing this presentation. We started on our journey in the spring after the acquisition of 451, and have hit a few user groups through the summer and the fall. And I think we're winding down our little tour on this note. But to kick us off, I'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Sandy Foley. As I said, I am a technical architect, and I work with Verndale out of Boston. I work remotely in Northern Michigan, and I've been a 4-time Sitecore Technologist MVP, and I'm shooting for my 5th time this year, or for 2022, crossing my fingers. I have a passion for CMSs and Sitecore, and just love to spread the word. I think that we all know that learning is super important when it comes to being in the IT world, but also sharing, I think, is equally as important. And I want to introduce my co-presenter, Hedel Dave.
Good evening, everyone. I fell in love with commerce and Sitecore and everything about e-commerce in general when I first got trained in Sitecore back in 2007 on version 5.3. And coincidentally and fortunately, every single Sitecore project that I worked on has been some sort of commerce integration. So it's been a privilege and a really fun ride working with all sorts of commerce platforms, ranging from Microsoft Commerce Server to WooCommerce to MediaChase, which is now acquired by Episerver, Episerver Commerce, Inside Commerce, Sitecore Commerce, and that middle phase, that's intermediate phase that Sitecore had with Sitecore Commerce Connect, with all sorts of integration with other platforms. And I come full circle with OrderCloud, being Sitecore's latest commerce acquisition. And this is the one that I'm pretty excited about because it brings the simplicity back in our commerce lives, I think, based on what I have seen so far. And I have been four-time MVP, and I'm hoping to continue to be the MVP and share as and what I learned with the community, because whenever something clicks in my mind, I really want to scream from the top of the roof that, guys, I figured it out. It's cool. So that's me.
Awesome.
I work at Verndale with Sandy as in a technical architect capacity, mainly focused on commerce solutions and commerce applications.
Great. Okay, so our agenda for today is to just give a quick overview of MACH architecture. And when I look at our little audience, I think everybody knows what that is, but so that'll be really brief. We'll talk a little bit about an overview of the OrderCloud. We call it the OrderCloud difference, basically giving you an overview of the different actors that are involved in commerce within OrderCloud. Show an API demo and a little bit of Postman in there too. Then Hedel will take over and jump headfirst into Head Start, the starter site for OrderCloud. And then toward the end, with all of Hedel's vast commerce experience, she'll provide a little bit of an evaluation. So as you heard in the introductions, you didn't hear the word commerce come out of my mouth. So what am I doing presenting about commerce? I am here to show that how easy OrderCloud is, especially the API. So that's my position in this, is to drive home that especially from Hedel's perspective, she says it's going to be so much easier as a tech architect to bring on engineers and throw them in the thick of it and have them just embrace this API first architecture and run with it, because it's with ease. You can do it with ease. So let's jump into this. As I said, the MACH architecture, a quick overview again. We know it's microservices, API first, cloud and headless, and OrderCloud embraces all of these concepts. Microservices would be like a little buffet where you're picking and choosing what you want, little deployable services that are available that you can plug and play and mix and match and produce your full set of services from an assortment. API first, OrderCloud definitely embraces this, as you'll see from my demo, where the endpoints, it's just everything is exposed through the endpoints. Cloud. So most of OrderCloud, we got some of OrderCloud is SaaS, the portal itself. So software as a service, and we love SaaS because I do, especially because I never really embraced working on infrastructure or networking too much. It never really came that easy to me. So I'm very happy to be a part of something that is flexible and scalable and upgrades automatically for you for the most part. Headless, hot topic for over the last 5 years, especially with Sitecore JSS. We all know that's just taking away moving the presentational layer away from the back end so that you could use any type of presentation that you want using the back end logic. So the OrderCloud difference on this page, we are showing you all of the actors, and Hedel's going to dive into each one of these actors. Go ahead, Hedel.
Fun times. I get excited whenever I get to talk about commerce, so please bear with my enthusiasm.
And I might have to cut her off just so we can get the whole presentation in here. So I'll try not to.
Thank you, Sandy. So as we all know, whenever we think about e-commerce, many of us have already worked on commerce applications through our careers. So we know that mainly we are talking about somebody who is selling something and somebody who is buying something. That's basically is the relationship, trying to sell something, and that something could be a physical product or a digital product or a subscription, anything that is sellable. That's what seller does, and anything that a buyer or a user needs, they buy, and they are the buyers. OrderCloud supports the seller and buyer paradigm, but There can be a couple of type of sellers and similar type of buyers. Like a buyer can be people like me and you. We are end consumers, so we are consumers in the B2C paradigm. So we are business to consumer model in a way. Then there are businesses who buy from businesses, so it's B2B. And in this mix, OrderCloud, in addition to that, what OrderCloud also supports is suppliers. Now, what is that? There comes like the supplier marketplace and marketplace seller and buyer paradigm. So who is like, what's the supplier model look like? What's the difference? A B2B supplier marketplace seller buyer model is sort of B2B and B2C all combined. A supplier is basically who is the one who is going to fulfill your order, but you place that order through marketplace. So if many of us who kind of not familiar with this, think of Amazon. Amazon is a big fat marketplace, and on Amazon could be the seller, which means that Amazon is the one who is selling the product and also fulfilling our order. Means Amazon receives the order, sends that information to the warehouse. Amazon's people pick, pack, and ship that order for us, and Amazon does the whole fulfilling. So that's the typical seller-buyer paradigm, which is B2B or B2C. Supplier is the one that, okay, I'm going to sell my stuff through Amazon, but Amazon is just the middleman. I'm actually the one who is going to receive the order from Amazon, from a user like me or you, or from another business, and then and the supplier is actually going to pick, pack, and ship order from their warehouses, and Amazon is nowhere to be seen in that regard. So that's the supplier model. And one thing about OrderCloud is that this whole diagram that we are seeing, it's all supported in OrderCloud. Sandy?
Cool. Okay. Thank you, Hetal. That's a good overview and a good segue into my demo of the OrderCloud portal. Find that. Let's see. Okay, let me just log off and start from scratch. Okay, so the portal for OrderCloud is obviously a website that you can sign up for free, just get an account. And that's important to have an account because then you can become contributors or users within what they call marketplaces. So I'm going to log in here and you're taken to a dashboard. The dashboard is made up of the alerts, very simple API console where you can save different sessions with different marketplaces, your list of marketplaces. Across the top, across everything, not just the dashboard, it links outside of the portal to the extensive learning, the very good tutorials here on how to learn about OrderCloud, knowledge base, developer tools, the API references. So basically a list of what I'm about to go over and describing all the different endpoints that are available, and then some community forums out here. So very simple portal here. We have a list of all the marketplaces that you can be a member of. And we saw on the other screen that that when Hetal was describing it, this is the central location where deals are done. You can see that I have 3 marketplaces that are set up. It's probably important to note right now that the marketplaces, as of this past November, at the beginning of November, in the latest release, they've released the ability to globalize your e-commerce with multiple currencies and multi-languages. So they have this new locale feature, which has its own set of endpoints where you can set them for your various situations, your buyers and your buyer user groups. Okay, back into the portal. If we jump into an organization or we can jump into a marketplace. It used to be called an organization earlier when it was 451. You can see that you have a set of settings. You can invite people to be contributors in your marketplace. Here's where you'd invite the users and set their permissions. There's a cool feature in here called impersonation, which is allows you to set up a specific user as an impersonator so that when you are running some of the API calls, which I'll show you in a little bit, it will impersonate as a seller, as a buyer, or as a supplier. With that turned off, you can also pick and choose the different levels of data access, the different roles that would be available for the user when you're inviting them. So inviting, as I mentioned, requires an email address, and the person could be invited to sign up to get an OrderCloud account, or they could have an OrderCloud account and they would automatically become a part of this marketplace. You can set up groups of people inside of teams and assign them roles as one big group as well. Let's see. So the other major area of the OrderCloud portal is the API console. And this is the part that I'm just super impressed with that OrderCloud has done. Just they've embraced the API first aspect of the MACH architecture here. You have all of the endpoints that are listed out, organized in 7 different groups. We have the administration area, the authentication authorization. We have the buyer, seller, suppliers that Hedel had talked about on the last screen. And then, of course, when you're working with those, you're working with products and product catalogs, and orders and from fulfillments. Orders and fulfillments, like payments and shipment details. Now, down below, we have this me and my stuffs, where you see the my in front of several of these categories. This is where it's all based on the user context of who's logged in. And this is where the impersonation comes in handy. So when you're in a marketplace, and when you're impersonating a buyer or a seller or a supplier, this is that context is applied here, and you're viewing it as if you're that role. And these things are viewable in that manner. So what are these groupings? These groupings are a set of endpoints. As I mentioned, let me dive into one of the simpler ones, like the products here. So the structure of the documentation, or the GUI that supports the documentation, is very simple. So you can see that here we have a GET request, and it lists what the endpoint is. This endpoint doesn't require any additional parameters inside it, or any variables or anything. So we can just submit it as is. And when we send just this command, we're going to pull them all back. And of course, you can filter by catalog, category ID, and so on in here to add on to this endpoint. You'll see off to the right are my items, and I've gradually been adding inventories of different types of shirts, I think. Yeah, cotton shirts, 50/50 shirts. So as you can see, the endpoints that are exposed for a product and the product assignment are pretty vast. I mean, they're all CRUD. You got the create, read, update, and delete in here, which is pretty handy, but it's really straightforward. So if we wanted to create a new product, there are a couple ways to do that. You can see that it shows you the required fields. In this case, it seems that it's just the name of the product is the only thing that's required. Let me grab my sample on my screen. So you can fill out the individual fields when you want to create a new product. I think that's what we're creating a new product. Or you can actually paste in some JSON in here. So they have this little window that lets you quickly paste things in. I'm creating a MACH turtleneck t-shirt, and when I pasted that in, it automatically filled in what's going on over here. If I send that over here, I'm going to end up creating a new product, and null gets applied, of course, in the fields that I didn't fill in. And then I can go get my list of now 8 objects, and we can scroll down, and somewhere we will see my mock t-shirt in here. Here's my mock turtleneck shirt right here. So super simple. I love that the creator update product is pretty simple as well. If I bring in my mock t-shirt, and I'm going to say it has a quantity multiplier of 5 instead, that comes over here. I can edit that pretty easily. Oops, that's right. I got to copy this up here. And then it sets the quantity multiplier to 5 for that product. So, I mean, this is very straightforward. This is what I was referring to, and my role in this presentation is to show the ease of use of how you could easily roll on an engineer who knows very little about commerce and provide them light instruction on what they need to do, and they're given all the tools right here. But that's not all, folks. OrderCloud also comes with a cool little OrderCloud API exercise collection. So this is a mock-up of this company, Northern Lights Coffee, and they have a little bit of documentation here about the structure, about what different API endpoints are exposed, and it's pre-filled with different information. But what I did is I kind of hijacked this presentation. I went and set up my my endpoints of this to point to my sandbox that I was just showing you. And so if we go under product and catalog and we get a list of the products, my base API URL is set up as a variable for the sandbox. And when I pull that over, I'm going to get my 8 objects here, all of my t-shirts again. So lots of similarities between what's here, this little exercise, and what is exposed in the portal. You got the authentication, buyer information, the security, products and catalogs, orders, and from fulfillments, and promotions, and even impersonation down here. So I'm super impressed with not only the structure and what they have to offer. It's very mature, but also the knowledge base and how easy it was to learn all of this. Let me go on. So here's a quick summary of the domains, just kind of grouping what I just talked about into the different domains. Sorry, I have a puppy squeaking a ball behind me. We have the administrative section up here. We have security, and then all the impersonation APIs. Then we have the product and product catalog, orders and fulfillments under the ordering APIs grouping. And then down below, we have the buyers, suppliers, and sellers. The actors that are acting within the marketplace are shown under the domain API. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Hedel to introduce you to Head Start, which is the starter kit for OrderCloud, and she'll talk about middleware and the buyer and seller. I'm going to see, are you on mute, Hedel, or did you step away?
That will help. Sorry.
Okay. Take it away.
Zoom, I don't know. Technology, I have so many expectations. It should just know that it's my turn and turn my microphone on.
It's after dinner. We get it.
And I haven't had mine yet. So, Sandy, can you stop sharing so I can share my screen?
Sure thing.
Thank you. All right. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
We see your logo screen.
Oh, and you all saw that unknown error thing. Oh, shoot.
No, you just told us about it.
Just keeping a little light. Demo gods are not always 100% pleasant to deal with. Head Start, and Vasily, I look to you because you have experience working with Microsoft Commerce Server. So I'm sure you are familiar with that starter site pop. So Head Start kind of reminded me of that because unlike the Sitecore Habitat solution that we all have seen over the years, they strictly mention that it's only for reference and don't use Habitat as a starter site. This is not the case. Back in Microsoft Commerce Server days, whenever we would install Microsoft Commerce Server, it would come actually with starter site. And we actually would start with the starter site. And the purpose of doing that was starter site came with all the necessary like plumbing that would get you started, all set up like membership provider and catalog and order and marketing manager and all that. Installing Commerce Server, an entirely separate thing, but the starter site provided much of the necessary starting points for everything. And that's pretty much is Head Start. Head Start application for OrderCloud, as they strongly recommend that it's actually a starter site that you can actually build your solution, your production or your client solution on top of, with necessary customizations. It comes, as far as I know, it comes in two flavors in terms of the front end. Middleware is .NET, Microsoft .NET Core. The front end comes in two flavors. You can choose either the React version, people who are more familiar with Next.js kind of thing, and the version that I started with, because when I started exploring it, I just went off without even searching much because front end is something I don't care about. And that's another example that I really don't need to care about front end. The example that I have set up is using Angular. And Angular is also pretty good front end framework. And I have worked with all of them, like started from JavaScript, jQuery, Knockout.js, Angular, and then I stopped working with front end and kind of pushed myself back into back-end world. Because nothing is more fun than dealing with ERPs, right? So I pushed myself into that. Having said that, so now there are two interfaces that you are seeing. This is the buyer's admin. So if I log out, this is what the buyers are going to see, or the end consumers. And as you guys are seeing, we have made no adjustments, maybe a little bit adjustments on how we want to display things. But when I say display, maybe the label, the text of label and all that, but the UI that you are seeing, or the user experience that you are going to see, the flow in which the site is navigable and a person can browse the site and place an order, it's all out of the box. We didn't have to do anything. The navigation, the header, this login register, footer, even with the copy text, it's all out of the box. We didn't do anything. So it's all there. So now I can log in, and I've set up this user. So one thing, as I go forward with this demo, I'll also explain a few things. Things that OrderCloud supports out of the box is visibility rules for products, which most of us are very, very familiar with. So especially in the B2B scenario, you can have a catalog, and maybe you don't want to have everyone. You have two options. Either you have multiple catalogs set up for each buyer, or you can just set the visibility rules that if a buyer X signs in, I don't want them to see these products, or I want them to see these products, but the prices are different for that buyer. OrderCloud provides that support by virtue of setting up visibility rules and pricing schedules through assignments. So pricing schedules are similar to what we have seen in Sitecore Commerce. Each product has a pricing schedule. And with that pricing schedule, you have associated buyer. So for single product, there could be multiple pricing schedules that are assigned to a buyer. So with the same catalog or the same product at the core, different buyers will see or can see different pricing. And that is all supported out of the box. Same goes for catalogs. You can create a catalog and maybe you haven't gone live yet. You don't want buyers to have access to those catalogs. You simply can make that catalog inactive. So a catalog or the products of that catalog will not be accessible until either catalog and products are active or the visibility rules set on the product allow the buyer to be able to see those products. And all of that is available by virtue of just configuring in the backend of OrderCloud. So let's look at some products. So I set up some posters. And in terms of products, as I mentioned before, there are products that are physically bought and sold. There are digital products. There are subscriptions and membership products as well, and all of that is supported in OrderCloud. Of course, when it comes to fulfillment, especially recurring orders or monthly subscriptions where you need to reauthorize the card every month, yes, you will need to do some integration with the payment provider, but the necessary logic or the business framework is already present in the Head Start. So that gives us a lot to work with and a lot less for us to kind of figure out. And even if we have to figure something out, OrderCloud support team have been excellent so far because we are still exploring and we are kind of like, okay, I know how this works in Commerce Server or in WooCommerce. How do I implement this? What are the rules of the land that I need to follow since I am in the OrderCloud land now? And they have been excellent in providing necessary information, links of articles and whatnot. And they would even stay with me for a couple of hours, messaging back and forth until I've resolved my issue. So I'm very impressed that way. Okay, now let's see one difference. So one difference we are seeing here is this product does not have add to cart and this product does have add to cart. The reason is this product is a flat product. It does not have any variants. This product does have variants. So either you can, and from the UX perspective, this is the out of the box behavior with Head Start. Maybe based on our client requirements, we want to set up quick view button here so that somebody can just quick view the product and select their option and add the product to cart. If I go to the product details page, now I get to see the variants. And all of that is just set up in OrderCloud. And this is all supported. And the pricing, as I mentioned, so if I want to buy a poster in English with laminated frame, I automatically see the pricing updated. If I go back, the pricing is updated. So it's just by virtue of setting up the pricing schedule for the variants, it's all set in OrderCloud. And now I can add this product to cart. So I have one item in my cart. And if I go back to my posters and everything you guys are seeing, I had to do nothing in the code. I just ran the data sheet, set up my Head Start. Yeah, I did steal some pictures from Google, but that's about it. Add to cart again, and then I can go to checkout or I can go to cart and go to checkout. I'm gonna select an address, save and continue. And another thing that happens here when I provide my shipping address, this is where there is a small implementation that OrderCloud provides called Webhook, which means that when I provide an address, you want to have that address validated with someone like FedEx API or Smarty Streets or some third-party address validation provider. So instead of going back to your middleware and then running through the API, you can implement a webhook that straight goes from your front end to OrderCloud, and then OrderCloud handles that integration events, sends that request back to your middleware where you have the Smarty Street API. And I'll show you that in a second. applies the address validation and gives you the response. So that's another cool thing with integration events and webhooks. And webhooks, as we are all familiar with, can be pre and post. So pre would be anything. Pre would be like, before I do something, I want to do something. So validating an address would be an example. Authorizing a card would be an example. And post would be like, okay, after the order is successfully created, I want to send an email to the buyer, or I want to send a notification to the ERP system. That would be post a webhook, and both are supported in OrderCloud out of the box. It's available. How do I want to ship it? I just set up one shipping method. I'm lazy. And then I'm going to be able to select a card, or if I want to add a new card, I can add a new card. And again, with the head start, you all have you have all these integrations already in place with the default trial versions of everything. For example, when we go back to the solution, I'll show you. I know that for address validation, they are using Smarty Street. I don't remember what I have for the payment provider, but we'll take a look in a minute. And then I can provide my CVV. And I can submit the order. If all goes well, we will see the confirmation page. Yes. Okay, so now I have created my order. Now coming to order history, there are two interesting ways OrderCloud supports order history. One is by virtue of profiling the anonymous shopper, so that when they come back and they want to look at the orders, they can provide some key information and still look at their order history, which is awesome. And the second is, of course, out of the usual order history. You are authenticated and you are just providing your customer ID, and you are able to fetch all your orders. Not only that, when I create the order, I can mark that order as favorite, or I can simply reorder right from here. If I just want to create another order, I can even download this invoice as a PDF. Speaking of invoice, OrderCloud does support invoice orders, which is typical for B2B, that there is no credit card authorization at the time of placing the order, but it will be afterwards, like the customer or the business client would be invoiced later on, and that is supported too. And again, all that can tie into actually the product or at the catalog level. You can just say that for this buyer, there is no credit card required for this product. And if the customer has only those products in the cart, they won't even be asked to provide credit card. So it's all really cool once you figure out how these data models work with each other. It's really fun stuff. Now let's go to orders. And this is a typical B2B scenario. Like if I'm signed in and based on my role or the security profile that I'm assigned to, if I'm at a manager level, maybe I can see order not only placed by me, but also by my subordinates. But because currently I don't have that hierarchy set up here, I'm just seeing orders placed by me. And I can check, like if I have marked any orders as favorite, for example. Let's see. If I do this, and then if I just say, show me my favorite orders, then I'll see only the orders that are marked as favorite, which can be very helpful in B2B scenario, that something that they are ordering pretty frequently, they can just do that. And then I can go to any orders and either just do a reorder, or if the order is not yet completed, I can request a cancellation. If an order is completed or canceled, nothing else can be done. Like if an order is canceled, there is no rollback, off rollback. If you see what I mean, that you already decided to roll back, now nothing else. So a canceled and completed order, a completed order only can be refunded, and that is also supported in OrderCloud framework. But a canceled order, nothing can be done with it. And then you have shipments, as we are seeing shipments in plural, implying that OrderCloud does support multiple ship tos and multiple bill tos. So if you have if you want to create multiple shipments within an order and provide multiple payment methods for each of those orders, you can. And that works really well for B2B scenarios where you want to use different saved payment methods for different orders when you are creating an order. Now quickly jumping back to, so this is the seller admin. So this is the one caveat that I feel we have with OrderCloud. Like we are all used to with all the other commerce platforms that we have worked with, that they come with some sort of admin interface for us to manage products or campaigns or discounts, customer profiles, or orders, etc. For OrderCloud, it's a toolkit. So it comes with the necessary framework, especially the Head Start. With the Head Start, you have a starter site even for the admin interface. So you can customize the admin interface however you want to set it up for your client's needs. Your client has specific needs on how they want to add or manage products. You can set it up all, but it is going to be something that you will need to develop. As of now, there is no admin interface like we are all used to. Like we have Sitecore CMS interface and we have Sitecore Commerce interface. There is no such thing with OrderCloud. It's a toolkit. So if you want to set it up, like if you want to build an interface for your client, you can. Otherwise, you can do minimal necessary changes in the seller admin that is provided through Head Start and start with there. As I said, they also have suppliers, but supplier admin, there is nothing provided for suppliers. So if you want to set up anything with suppliers, it's all from scratch. So Head Start doesn't have that, but still you have so much other code and framework that you can refer to if you ever need to build that. Now coming to orders, so here you can see all the orders placed by the default buyer user, and I can create a shipment. So this is typically would happen on the fulfillment side of things. So I can create shipping and I can do all of it. And if I do, because we were short in time, I'm not going to create the shipment, but in a nutshell, what's going to happen if I create the shipment and marked it as shipped, in real time, the order that I have created will show as completed. Otherwise, it will show as in process, which is typical. That until an order is, and again, that also varies from client to client. Some clients say that we don't want to show the order status as completed until we have settled the payment. Some say that once the order is shipped, we want to settle. Some say once we get the confirmation from the shipping provider that the order is actually delivered, that's when we call it completed. So all these blurry lines are always client specific. But for Head Start, once the shipment is created, the order changes to completed. And of course, we can change that. Now let's look at how the solution looks like. So for front end framework, there is a buyer application, there is a seller application, and there is a core library that supports both of them. So any changes that you might need to make, you would want to make under seller or buyer, unless there is something at the core library that you need to update. And currently I'm just running both the interfaces as localhost, but of course you can have them run through IIS or even through Azure directly. That's also provided. Like when you start setting up Head Start, you will see a lot of Azure stuff, but I just skipped and just set up everything locally so that I can save some money because Azure is not free, if not cheap. Then you have Visual Studio Solutions. So let me do Solution Explorer. Oops. And as you can see, quite a good chunk of code. So you have the API, and API has all your controllers and basically the things that will be called from OrderCloud front end. And then you have common, which has all the business functions and business logic and models and etc. And then you have integrations. So all those integrations are already in place. So for example, Avalara is something that they are using for tax calculations. If you want to implement a different integration, different tax provider like Vertex maybe, all you will need to do is maybe change few endpoints, but the core logic is not much that you will need to do. You have the initial plumbing to start with, which is pretty awesome. For payments, you have Card Connect, you have Smarty Sheets for Smarty Streets for address validation, Easy Post for shipping. Exchange rates is something I have not tried with multiple currencies, but that is also typically like a table, as sometimes we do get to work with multi-currency, multilingual websites, but the fulfillment is still done in US dollars. And at that point, you do need exchange rates so that orders can be fulfilled. When the order goes into fulfillment, finance gets to handle that in US dollars, but your end user or your customer still sees it in Canadian dollars or Australian dollars, whichever currency they placed the order in. And I have just run up the application, and it's just running on, everything is just running on local host. Any questions? I know I went really fast, but.
I have so many. I don't even know where to start.
You can always DM me, Vasily. I would be more than happy to help. Because something I really like about this platform is decoupled, yet it is well integrated. And as Sandy mentioned, there is overall consistency, whether you are in API client or you are in Postman collection or you are in Head Start. All those calls are still same, like API calls and all that. So you have a lot of way as engineers, we have a lot of flexibility, like the power is in our hands. And we are not dependent. Even product has some native properties like you would have with any commerce platforms, but OrderCloud then has extended properties, and they have recommendations around how you can use extended properties, how you can set up specifications and options and variants. So it's API, basically API first is becoming the norm of our industry, and OrderCloud provides like a really, really good role model type of framework. Sandy?
Till I have a question. So is this like complete ERP, like it has order fulfillment and everything?
No,
or,
it does.
So,
it does not have order fulfillment. You will need to integrate with the order fulfillment system that you want to. Can you implement a fulfillment system within the OrderCloud? Yes, because you have the power to do that. But usually that's not the case. But to answer your question, no, OrderCloud does not support like out of the box fulfillment, order fulfillment.
So it's like a new e-commerce Sitecore platform. Is it?
Yes, but you, as I mentioned, you can use however you want to use it. If you want to use it just as a fulfillment system, sure you can. If you want to use it a full-fledged e-commerce platform with B2C, B2B fulfillment, everything, yes, you can. It's a toolkit. I would not confuse this with platform.
And it can also hold catalog, like
yes,
product catalog.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So is it anyway related with Sitecore now, like the current experience platform, or
Not
is it completely
yet.
different?
Yeah, that's the main feature of OrderCloud, that it's completely microservice based, and it's basically a headless framework for commerce. So you can integrate that with Sitecore, and that is probably going to be our 2022 journey. I'm not going to disclose our plans too much, but that's our next level of curiosity, that how it will integrate with other systems. Being the kind of platform OrderCloud is, as you can see, that front end is Angular, middleware is .NET Core, and it can integrate with any ERP system, and the middleware can integrate with any front-end system, which means that it is completely language agnostic. platform agnostic. So if you want to integrate OrderCloud with another application, say for example, an API server application, you can. I will just mention one example. OrderCloud has a punch out product where someone can sign in and pick and choose a store that they want to purchase, create a single order from multiple stores, and then punch out and take their cart with them and then pay to the interface that they are coming from. OrderCloud has that punch out product. So it's not like they have just emerged out of nowhere. They have been around for a while, and they really have this B2B model down to the T's. But to answer your question, can it integrate with Sitecore? 100%. How would that integration look like? At this point, I have no idea, but I'm looking forward to explore that.
Okay. Do you want to stop sharing your screen and we can jump into I'm going to share this, the evaluation. So you've pretty much heard my Commerce Newbie evaluation of how great the endpoints are, how transparent everything is and available through those endpoints. But really, I think Hedel, you've kind of touted the benefits that you like about OrderCloud, but do you want to say a little more about your evaluation, about how much you like OrderCloud or how it compares to Commerce or e-commerce? Sure. And all of that?
So first thing that I noticed and liked about OrderCloud is it took away the burden of anyone who is working with a solution or with a client application having to have knowledge of commerce at core, because it's basically API and you just can provide endpoints, and it kind of takes away that burden that I have had to struggle over the years with new team members, especially those who are new to commerce. So now, instead of explaining them what kind of commerce component we are looking at and making sure they understand the context and the big picture in the grand scheme of things, I can just focus on the engineering part of it when I'm working with my team. And the second thing was working with Sandy. We both acknowledged that how easy it was for Sandy to pick it up, not working extensively with commerce application. She was just comfortable. And that is something I really, really appreciate. Third thing is it's flexible and it's composable in a way where Sitecore is headed to. Like you can pick and choose what you want to develop and how you want to integrate. And last but not the least, the head start. Even if you decide to throw out the whole front end framework and wanna build your own, you still have middleware, which is the meat of everything, and it has some really good logic. It's not just haphazard logic, but necessary validations or common sense validations, as we would call it, all baked in. So it does give you a good starting point. Not to mention that it does not come with its it's not that it doesn't have its own gotchas, like as I mentioned, that like we are all familiar with or used to with commerce platforms having their own admin interface to manage for authors and managers to manage things. That is something we would have to build. But I'm hoping Sitecore turns things around and we get something out of Sitecore that, oh, we are going to build an admin interface for OrderCloud. I don't know. But that's the one thing. I wouldn't hold that against this platform because there is so much more that this platform has to offer that we can work without admin interface. Plus, in today's time, there are product information management systems. So mostly it's product sync jobs running day and night. Same goes for inventory, same goes for pricing, same goes for orders, same goes for marketing campaigns and stuff like that. So I think all that we would need to worry about is whenever we integrate it with something like a composable Sitecore or Sitecore experience platform is how we can integrate those dots so that we can leverage what Sitecore Experience Platform offers with OrderCloud. providing us with necessary connections so that we can profile and personalize and help users journeys on our website. But other than that, I have nothing but praise for this platform. And one thing I would recommend, that now Sitecore also has OrderCloud exams out. Pretty straightforward study guide to follow. And that's what I did. Play with Head Start a little bit, understand your concepts, be a little curious, and then follow the study guide, and you will pass with flying colors. And it's a good certification to have on your resume, and a good skill to have as professionals.
We're a little over time. Sorry about that, Vasily, but we want to shout out some special thank yous to Christian Ramirez, who's been with OrderCloud. He has been exceedingly helpful in any type of question that we have through Slack or in any manner. He's very patient and worked with Heddle extensively. And then also at our very beginning, Himadri Chakrabarti, he created a blog video of setting up OrderCloud from end to end. And it didn't have any words on it, but it had beautiful music, and it showed it precisely what to do for, I think it was like 35 minutes. So we appreciate that. That was very helpful. And then, of course, the VP of Commerce and Analytics, Jake Hookham, we borrowed some slides of his and put it in our presentation because they exemplified what we were trying to describe. So special thank yous to them. Also, here's a list. Maybe you want to take a screenshot of these helpful links. Pretty much if you go to the portal, you're going to have access to many of these. Getting started, that getting started link is super important. It just guides you, and it's super easy to follow. All right. Do we have any further questions then?
Yeah, I have two last questions. Sorry, Sandy. Okay. One first question is, so this is the only Sitecore Commerce platform, or is there any other Sitecore Commerce platforms?
So there is Sitecore Commerce, the Sitecore Experience Commerce, and now you have the OrderCloud that is acquired by Sitecore. But also to remember that Sitecore is going the composable setup, so DXP, that's how you would want to refer to this particular platform, that it's not like integrated into Sitecore. If you want that kind of integration, it is going to be you who develops that kind of integration. It's a separate component, and that if you want to buy or purchase for a client's needs, you can. And as I mentioned before, you may not even have Sitecore Experience Platform. Maybe hypothetically speaking, you have some other CMS that you want to integrate with OrderCloud. By all means, you can.
Okay, so this is going to replace Sitecore Commerce? Is that what the direction we are in?
In terms of industry norms, yes. I will be honest. I want to be careful, but I have voiced my frustration to Thomas multiple times, so I'm sure he'll forgive. Sitecore Commerce was a big disappointment for me. It was a little struggle because I think Sitecore basically acquired Microsoft Commerce Server, and I had tons of experience working with Commerce Server. So it was very surprising and disappointing when I saw that all my knowledge that I had of the the Microsoft Commerce Server API was of no use. And also the Sitecore Content API that I had knowledge of was of no use, because Sitecore Experience Commerce was entirely different. I remember being on calls with Sitecore product team when they had just acquired Microsoft Commerce Server. And we kept on saying that just take care of those pipeline components and you are good to go. Just remove those COM components and you are good to go. Don't touch anything else. But that's not what happened. And it was really, really difficult. And I'm speaking for me. I found it very difficult to work with. But OrderCloud is different. So I think I'm not saying that Sitecore might completely replace, but I think the preference might shift. And not only from the Sitecore experience commerce perspective, but if somebody is considering, some client is considering other commerce platforms that they might want to integrate with Sitecore, they might also prefer OrderCloud over the others.
Yeah, there's no. I would add to that, and so I think we both have battle scars from experience commerce. We can share.
We do.
Yeah. So, but I mean, Dinesh, there's no formal statement on that one from Sitecore.
Okay.
The writing is on the wall.
Yep.
I'll say that.
Yeah, thank you. And my one last question is, so this OrderCloud is like for all args, it will be like that OrderCloud.portal. I saw like you had a local host and you showed another
Yes.
portal. So is it something like Covio, like for each organization, they will have its own independent size, like something like Azure and something like that, or what is that?
Yeah, it's pretty much going to be like that. You go to the portal, you sign in, and there you have access to your organizations or your marketplace. Basically, you become the marketplace owner.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And just to give you an architectural idea, there can be only one marketplace owner.
Okay.
And you can set up multiple buyers and suppliers and whatnot, but the guy that sits in the middle of suppliers and buyers is only one. You can only have one seller organization or one seller, but you can have multiple suppliers and you can have multiple buyers.
Yeah, thanks, Atal. It's a very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you. Sorry, went over.
No worries at all. This is great and helpful, useful information. If because this video is being recorded and there will be people watching this later, if they have questions, how can they reach out to you guys?
They can reach out to us
Right
on
there.
Slack, on Sitecore community, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. We'll be more than happy to help. As you guys all know by now, I can never shut up about commerce. So I'll be eagerly helping people out if they need any.
Awesome.
And I know I can say that same for Sandy.
Of course. I'll be passing it along to you if it's too technical on the commerce side for me. But all right.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been great.
Thank you.
There's so much to talk about around.
Oh, yeah.
But you guys did a great job, great presentation. I think I learned a few things. For instance, the React storefront, that's interesting. I remember seeing the Angular one. I haven't seen the React one. So
Me neither.
I'm curious to play around with that because that's where everyone is going, React, right? We rarely see someone building a site in Angular. So I'm excited about that one.
Yep.
But anyways, thank you guys. Thank you for the session. And in the interest of time, why don't we move on to Thomas? Thomas is coming to us from Sitecore.
Yeah, that was a great presentation. I haven't had much time to play around with OrderCloud, so it was a lot of fun seeing all that. Let me share the screen here. This bigger.
And
So
Thomas, before you jump in, one quick reminder, guys, if you are interested in getting some Sitecore swag, just message me directly your shipping address, and Santa will send you some Sitecore goodies this year. Back to you, Thomas.
Cool. So what are fast websites? Dave O'Flanagan, the chief product officer, we were at a town hall meeting and wanted a presentation about fast websites, static site generation, kind of how to measure these sites, where Sitecore fits in. So I jumped in on that, and I've got this little presentation, and I gave it this morning to the entire product department, and to all of you today. So first off, a little bit about myself. So I'm a developer advocate at Sitecore on the technical marketing team, underneath Jason with Mark and Rob as other developer advocates there. Before Sitecore, and I've been at Sitecore almost a year. It'll be a year in January, so getting really close. But a long-time developer for that, doing a lot of .NET, C#, mobile, AWS technologies, and a lot of Angular before that as well. So a lot of development experience there. and most recently with Sitecore focusing in on front-end developer advocacy and industry awareness. So I'm speaking at a lot of different events. Happy to be here today. And also doing a lot of YouTube videos for Discover Sitecore. So if you haven't seen the Discover Sitecore YouTube channel, definitely check that out and get some good YouTube. I think we try to release every Monday. So check it out there. Located in San Diego, so pretty close to LA, but it seems like most people aren't even from LA that are here today, but it's nice to kind of speak in a more local group. And please reach out to me with feedback or questions you have in the future. I'm on Twitter at Thomas J. Desmond, LinkedIn. I'm on the Slack as well as Thomas Desmond. And you can find more information about me on thetombomb.com. That's kind of my personal website, but posts a lot of industry relevant things there as well. So jumping right in. So what makes websites slow? I think it's easier to talk about what's making sites slow rather than what's making them fast. So what's really slowing down your sites? What's really making things slow? That is going to be data fetching. The data fetching process is what's going to take the most time whenever we're trying to build out our page. Actually rendering that HTML, rendering that JavaScript, rendering that CSS to the page, that's pretty simple. It's the gathering of all the information that you need to actually present to the user. So calling out to your database, calling out to your API, calling out to your different services to pull in data. That's really what's going to slow things down. So in the traditional world of client-side rendering or server-side rendering, you're making that request each time a user visits your page. You're making that kind of personalized page for them, but you're having to fetch data from your API, fetch data from your database, and pull that all in. That's going to happen with each request when you're looking at client-side rendering or server-side rendering. So that's where static site generation and Jamstack come in. Sitecore's been putting a big push towards static site generation and supporting Jamstack. It's a little confusing where people are mentioning static site generation and Jamstack usually are meaning the same thing. Jamstack is more of the architecture that supports pre-rendering, fast delivery, and rehydration, and static site generation are the tools that you would use to kind of help you with that. So the tools and frameworks that support static site generation, and then Jamstack is the overall architecture that you're trying to achieve. But with this static site generation and Jamstack, you're moving that data fetching process to your build time, and you're doing it just once at build time. So we're creating static pre-rendered sites for our visitors that gives us the super speed that we're able to just deliver content directly to our users. And if you're familiar with Sitecore, that maybe how can you have these static sites and offer personalization and offer like a good digital experience? And we'll look at that, but static site generation, Jamstack in general, are lending themselves towards content that doesn't change very often because you're going to have to do a rebuild of your entire application every time you want to push out a change. So considering a 5-10 minute, half hour, even potentially a 1 hour build time if you have a lot of pages is something that needs to be considered. A lot of optimizations and caching that are possible there to help speed these things up. And there's some cool advanced features that I'm going to talk about later. But there does need to, you're doing at build time, you're going to generate every single one of the pages for your application. You're going to fetch the data, build out the pages, and have that static content. So it can take a little bit to actually build out all of that content. Quite a few different frameworks that support this. What I see most popular are Next.js and Gatsby. Again, those are the React. They're built on top of React, and they're probably the most popular. Scully is a Angular static site generation tool. There's Jekyll. There's for PHP. There's Ruby for C#. There's basically you can do static site generation with any language that you want. Jamstack does kind of made it very popular with JavaScript, but that's just because JavaScript's so popular. But if you want to do static site generation, you can really choose any language that you want. There's going to be a tool out there that supports it for you. But I wanted to look deeper at kind of this architecture and look at the flow of this architecture. So for like my personal site, thetombomb.com, it is using all static site generation. So this is the workflow that I go through. I make new changes to my page. I make new content, and I push that code up to GitHub. So I push that out to source control. That's kind of this step one. I'm pushing out my new code. The site's hosted on Vercel. Vercel are the creators of Next.js, and they offer a free hosting tier there. So I'm hosting it through Verndale. Verndale is going to recognize that new content is available, that new code was pushed, that it's going to see new code there on GitHub. So it starts the process of actually building every single one of the pages. So steps 2 and 3 happen where it looks at the page, decides and has to figure out what content needs to be pulled in, calls out to your database, calls out to your CMS, pulls the data in, builds the page, and then moves on to step 4. So this is going to happen for every single page where you're fetching the data, pulling it in, and generating the static page for your that's going to actually eventually be served to your users. And this is the process that happens every time you deploy code to your source controller. Every time you deploy code and wherever you're hosting it, happens to notice the change in your code. So this is that big pre-rendering process that happens ahead of time at your build time. All those static assets are then hosted on a CDN. CDNs are great. They're distributed around the world. These content delivery networks are able to serve up the content really quickly to your users. So when a request actually comes in, it's going to go to the CDN and directly back down to the user. There's no server involved. There's no data fetching involved. We've completely removed the piece that that leads to the slow delivery of your website. We've already done the data fetching ahead of time, and we're just sending that page that we've already built back down to the user. So with this scenario, with just this architecture you see right here, personalization really is not going to be possible. When you did your build ahead of time, you could have built it a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, just whenever the last time you actually had to make a change to your site. So that content, you didn't know who your user was, you didn't know where your user was coming from. There's really not that much opportunity for personalization or anything dynamic when you generate your content so early. That's where rehydration comes in. This is the way to kind of give yourself a easy, dynamic, personalized feel in your static sites, where you do add data fetching. So this is adding data fetching to your site, that thing that slows it down, but you try and do this as much or as minimal as possible. So we learned a whole lot about commerce today, so I can stick with that example. A good example of using this pre-rendering with rehydration would be for your commerce platform. All of your product pages, you can hopefully render as much of that ahead of time. Every user is going to see the same images. Every user is going to get the same description data, but you want maybe a small component that says a recommended for you that has that personalized component to it. So there's no reason that every user needs to call out to the same CMS to pull down the images, call out to the same database to get the item description. You can pre-render that content of the page, do that data fetching ahead of time, and then having that small recommended for you section that gives you the dynamic feel and something that's more personalized to your users. So that's one example of this workflow here, where we're doing the pre-rendering ahead of time and then handling with a mix of static and dynamic content at request time. But we've made that request to, if you're using the Sitecore CDP or to get your personalized content, that's one data fetching call rather than 3 or 4 to get a lot of different data for your page. And I want to reiterate some of the limitations of static sites. And it really comes down to that low flexibility. That's the piece that really turns maybe everyone off. They're thinking, well, static sites, it's good for blogs and documentation, stuff that doesn't change very often. It's hard to think of your site as having, everyone wants to see super dynamic sites. Everyone's thinking of having very interactive sites. So if you're going to move to static sites, if performance really is a main goal and that you want this extreme performance, you will need to maybe make some sacrifices with your flexibility and the pieces that you want to have dynamic. Because you really don't know who your users are when you're fetching data. But there's a caveat to that. Verndale is making some really interesting they've made some really interesting features now for Next.js, and it's actually available not just for Next.js. Verndale has made it available to any basically front-end framework, these middleware functions. And I won't go into too much detail because there's a video that Lee Robinson has made from Verndale that shows it off in really great detail. But what they've added is now with static sites, you can run edge functions. So when a request comes in to view your page, you can modify the response that you send back to the user. And what you can modify is the header information as well as the URL information. So when a request comes in, you can now check the geolocation of the user, the cookie data of the user, and maybe if the geolocation is of a certain country, you can redirect them to a pre-statically generated page for that country. One way that I've seen this used is with kind of like voter registration or voting information for different states in the US. You were able to statically generate a page that was unique to each state. And now you could, when a user came in, you could check what state they're in and rewrite the URL to direct them to the static content that that's useful for their state. So it was a really interesting way of having static content, but adding that personalization at the edge and being able to get content that's personalized to different people that's still static. And the last thing to think about is just those build times of static site generation that can take a while. If you've got a commerce page, it's got 1,000 products, 10,000 products, your build times are going to increase. But it's something like, well, if my products don't change too often, taking a 30-minute build time might be really worth it to get that nearly instantaneous delivery of your site down to your users. And I do want to talk about finding out if your site is fast. This is relevant for not just static site generation or Jamstack sites. This is relevant for any site that's available, any site that you visit, that you maintain, or that you just want to know the speed of. And there's a ton of metrics out there that are capable of being measured. I don't think you need all of them. There's so many out there that it just gets overwhelming. I've really kind of just limited it to these three that I think are important that can tell you a whole lot about the experience that people are going to have on your site. First is the first contentful paint. This is the first thing to be painted to the screen. It's good to have something being on the screen. If you don't have anything being painted to the screen, it's not really, the user's not aware if anything's actually happening. They might think that the server's just not responding. So having even just a loading spinner, even just one pixel in the top left corner counts as a first contentful paint. Something can show up onto the screen. Next is largest contentful paint. This is the largest image or text block to become visible on the screen. And when I first was learning about largest contentful paint, I actually thought it was largest like megabytes or kilobytes of thing that had to be downloaded, but it has nothing to do with the size, like the file size. It's all about just physical real estate that it takes up on the screen. The idea behind this is that the thing that takes up the largest amount of space is what the user came to see. Hopefully, if you're whatever you're displaying on your page, that's the biggest is what the user actually came to see. And last is timed interactive. Hopefully your timed interactive and your largest contentful paint are very similar or about the same, because once the user sees what they came for, hopefully they can also interact with the page. So getting these numbers, I'm going to shamelessly promote the new dev portal that we've had. Oh, wrong button. This button. So the dev portal, developers.sitecore.com is the new developer portal that's recently released, I think October when it was first announced. But this is a website that we've created to help developers. Previously, as you probably know, there was tons and tons of different sites. The sites are still there, but now we've kind of brought them together and brought all the information into one location and being able to hopefully find what you're interested in. But this is built with Next.js, hosted on Verndale, does static site generation. So if we click on any of the links, if we navigate around the site, it's very fast of how we're getting everywhere. This is static content that's being delivered down to our users very quickly. So we can check the scores for this site. If we go into Chrome Dev Tools, there is a Lighthouse tab across the top. And if you're in a different tab, it's like way off to the right. So you have to put the little arrow symbol and go to your Lighthouse scores here. But what's nice about this is Lighthouse, if you're not familiar with it, is open source tool created by Google, tells you not only your performance, but best practices, accessibility, SEO numbers as well, and can tell you how to improve on these, improve on your site as well. So if you're getting numbers that you don't like, you can, it gives you insights on how to improve upon them. So if I generate the report here, it's going to flash the screen a few times. I'm going to go through the site, load it, get different numbers for it. This is a static site with static content, so we're getting those really nice performance numbers that we want to see. We got all green across the top with 100 for performance, getting a first contentful paint of 0.3, largest contentful paint 0.4, time to interactive 1.4. If you run the tests more and more times, you're going to get different numbers here, and they actually got very different numbers this morning. But largest contentful paint is 0.4, and then the page is fully interactive in 1.4 seconds. So these are all green numbers. Google's considering them great scores. I do recommend that you run this on your sites. Even if you're scared of what the numbers are going to be, it's good to get an idea, try and look at the insights that they provide to you. It might be scary, the number you see, but at least you know of a starting point of where you can go. And it's important to also, it gives you the option to do a mobile device as well. And our mobile device scores are not as good, but it's important to see, especially if you have analytics, check on the analytics, see what score, like, are people visiting your site? That's even way worse than before. But check your sites on mobile, check them on desktop, see what numbers you get, and rerun them every once in a while. I can rerun this mobile one, see what it comes back as. I'm not sure the numbers are going to generally be the same, but they can kind of fluctuate here and there. So especially, I don't know, this 83 for performance this time, but a 66 the first time. Largest contentful paint it thought was, or had a very bad score the first time. Second time, or the third time, much better largest contentful paint score. So these are things that are important to see, important to get these numbers. Even if you're scared of them, it'll help you improve in the long run when you get these numbers. But do check out the developer portal. I do recommend it. But I just wanted to finish things off here with a little bit of like where Sitecore fits in with all of this, where Sitecore is fitting into supports Jamstack, support static site generation. The biggest piece is with Next.js. We're supporting Next.js in JSS. You can do the static site generation of Next.js. If you're not familiar with Next.js, it can also do server-side rendering. So on a per-page basis, you can choose if you want to have a particular page statically generated or a page server-side rendered. So you can really have, if you need a highly dynamic page, you can do server-side rendering. And then if you're able to have static content as well, or static pages, you can do that as well. We're partnering with Verndale for hosting. So Verndale are the creators of Next.js. And with that, I believe that they are the best at hosting Next.js, just because they created it. So they should be pretty darn good at hosting it. You also get some of the features of Next.js are really only supported through Verndale, or at least you get them first with Verndale, and then the other hosts have to kind of catch up with those. So Verndale wants you to host Next.js with them. And kind of mentioned today was with all the API work that Sitecore is doing. Experience Edge for Content Hub, Experience Edge for XM, expose that GraphQL API where you can now pull in your Content Hub data, pull in your XM data. And this is something that you can do ahead of time, doing with that ahead of time rendering or ahead of time builds. You can now in your build process, pull in data from Content Hub, pull in data from XM really easily with Experience Edge. So I think Sitecore is really trying to focus on trying to allow static site generation, allow Jamstack, get these fast sites up and running and let you use static site generation. And it was mentioned today as well with the APIs of OrderCloud. It's exciting to see where that's moving forward to now that we have kind of this composable DXP space. Some of these products I do believe need a little bit more work with the API that's being developed for them, but APIs are being developed to make it so these are more accessible so that you can go with that really nice API-driven API first development and have headless development there as well. That's what I got for today. Thank you. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Thomas, have you played with the MVC SSG with Intent 2?
I have not.
I think there's a rendering host support now for static site generation for MVC. So I'm curious how robust and how well that works. Does anyone anyone who's on, has anyone played around with that yet? This is brand new. I've heard that some of those things were actually also available in 10.1. They were just sort of hidden. You had to look for them, if you knew where to go. I'm curious if that's ready for prime time yet.
I haven't had a chance to explore. I think this all aligns well with the Sitecore composable direction. And I'm a big fan of big picture in form of diagrams, like how all these architectures or frameworks will play well together. That still remains a mystery to me. Hopefully, I'll try to resolve that in 2022. But no, so far, I've barely touched OrderCloud.
Yeah, there's a lot of new products all in 1 year that we through acquisitions.
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, Sitecore, stop.
We had a long low, and it's almost like you gotta, when you gotta take a big jump, you gotta step back, take a few steps back, right? It's like we had that low dip for the longest time, and then just one after another. So many things to learn, so many things to talk about.
And this year has felt like Sitecore as we knew is changing big time. So I'm looking forward to the new era and see how things look like, especially in the composable platform approach that in general industry is going with.
Very cool. Well, this is I got to check out your blog now, Thomas.
All right, check it out.
That's a pretty cool name. I like how you highlighted the lack of flexibility. I think there's so much hype around Jamstack, and performance numbers are mind blowing. I mean, compared to traditional solutions. So everyone's talking about it, but you have to be careful about certain things. And then I like that you
there's some sacrifices that need to be made if you're gonna move over to static sites. But yeah, the performance is out there. You're definitely great.
Oh, it's mind blowing. And this is going to be more important than ever with the core vitals that Google has now, right? So that's going to be at the center of everyone, especially those folks using SXA. I was excited about that rendering host with MVC support. So I'm curious, if that would be the solution for the SXA performance concerns. We'll see. I'm holding my fingers crossed. I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah.
So
there is a lot between here and there, though. Let's hope that we are able to catch up with Sitecore.
I'm excited. There's so much coming ahead. And I'm hearing that Sitecore isn't done with acquisitions yet. So that's also interesting. We'll see.
Yeah. And every time Sitecore is acquiring new company, like they acquired OrderCloud, and as Dinesh mentioned, Sitecore has OrderCloud. What happens to Sitecore Experience Commerce? They just require reflection. I'm like, okay, so what happens to Solar? So that shift is to be something to watch out for, like how the whole transition is gonna happen and look like. I'm pretty intrigued. Excited. Good stuff.
Awesome. Well, Thomas, thank you so much. This has been great. I think this is going to be helpful for a lot of people to wrap their head around Jamstack, especially if they haven't looked into that before. This is something that's coming. It's coming fast, but you got to be careful because there's a little baggage that it comes with. So, your mileage will vary. So, any last thoughts, Thomas, from your end?
No, Andrew, thanks for having me. Thanks. I wasn't aware of the LA group, and I'm glad I was able to be here today.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to have you. And
thank you for the opportunity, Vasily. It was fun hanging out with you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys. I mean, it's your it's not your first time at all, right? It's your at least second time, right? Presenting?
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Yeah,
Maybe second time. I think we did one with LA Group.
Yeah, so I mean, it's always great. So, by the way, for anyone interested, if anyone is interested in presenting, our next user group will take place towards the end of February, or mid to the end of February. So feel free to reach out to me if you have an idea for things you'd like to share. In the meantime, those who shared their addresses, I took a note of them, and I'll make sure that you get some Sitecore swag.
Thank you.
Before the end of the month. So keep an eye on that.
Look forward to it.
You're most welcome. And thank you all for joining. This has been great. Happy New Year. Happy holiday season. Guys, enjoy the rest of the year. And I'm sure we'll talk to all you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.